All right, we have lots of pieces now. We've got rhythm, we've got melody, we've got scales, we've got articulations, we've got all sorts of things. Let's put it together now. So we've got our melody, which is based on a scale. The harmony is the other bits of the music that we would have that would make it interesting. You know, I've been playing you little one-line melodies and you're probably sick to death of those. Let's add something to that to make it more interesting. So if you think of the melody as sort of the thing that floats over the top, even though the melody might actually be lower than all the harmony is all the supporting characters in our little musical theatrics here. So the melody is the star, the harmony is all the supporting cast. Harmony can take a lot of different kinds of forms. It might be just sort of basic chords underneath. It might be other little melodic lines, and we'll talk about that more when we talk about texture. But basically, it's everything that supports the melody. Now, the harmony needs to match up with the melody. Otherwise, you get more tension than you really want to have in a piece of music. So let's go back to our good friend, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, which I'm playing in the key of C major. So we have our Twinkle, Twinkle melody. I'm doing it in the key of C major. Now we're going to add to that harmony. And when we use harmony, we're usually talking about chords. Another word for a chord, or at least the simplest form of a chord, is a triad. A chord is at least 3 notes. So we need 3 tones to make a chord. So I could take, we could call that a chord. Now, if I'm thinking about what the structure of that chord is, I'm going to want to put those notes closer together on the piano. So I would probably go, you can see it's a very different sound when I put them together, but they're the same pitches. So 3 notes makes a chord. We could also go with 4 notes and 5 notes and 6 notes, and we'll see that when we get to the modern period that composers do start stretching out how many notes are in a chord, but we need at least 3. So a chord is made up of notes in particular intervals. The interval is the distance between 2 notes. So we talk about we'll start with our C again because that's the easy scale. If that's our 1 of the scale, the distance to the second note of the scale we call a second, and the distance between that and the third note of the scale is a third, and then there's a fourth, so it's not complicated. But we use these intervals to describe both the melody and harmony. Now in a chord, most of the chords we will use way up, like for 300 or 400 years, are based on intervals of thirds. So we would start on 1 note, skip a note, skip a note. So we would start with C, skip the D, go to E, skip the F, and go to G. And then we would have a lovely C major chord. So the distances in this major chord are always going to be consistent. So we've already learned about half steps and whole steps. We can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps in that first interval. And then we have 3 half steps to get to the next one. So 4 half steps, 3 half steps, that makes a major chord. So I can start on any note on the keyboard, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, got a major chord. And you can see they all have the same basic sound. That's because the distances within the chord are the same. So that's a major chord, 4 half steps plus 3 half steps. And I promise you this is as much theory stuff as you're going to have to deal with. So you can get back on your virtual keyboard and you can play around with this and experiment with making some chords. So we can have major chords. We can also have minor chords. So we're going to start on a different note because we're going to stay in the C major scale, which was all the white notes. And I want to stay on the white notes for now. So I'm going to start on the note D. And I'm going to go skip a note, which is the same thing we did for the C major scale. This is the chord I come up with. Compare that to the sound of the C major chord. It sounds different, and that's because the distances between the notes have changed. Remember, we had 4 half steps plus 3 half steps for our major chord. So now we're going from this note, 1, 2, 3 half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps. So we've reversed the interval. We went from 4 and 3 to 3 and 4. So it changes the way the middle of the chord sounds. I could change this middle note and make it major. But then you see I had to get on a black note, and we're in the key of C, we like the white notes. So again, you can go anywhere on the keyboard, go 3 half steps, go 4 half steps, you got a minor chord. Even if you're in a major key, you're going to have minor chords because of the way the keyboard works. So here's a major chord. This one's a major chord in the key of C. And this one is a major chord in the key of C, staying on the white notes. If I go to the white notes here, I have a minor chord. I have another minor chord. I have another minor chord. I'm still in the key of C. You know, in the same way that we don't want to have all the same kind of rhythmic patterns, all the same kind of melodic patterns, we don't want to have a whole piece full of major key chords either. Now, granted, there's lots of music that has nothing but major chords. So you pick any Elvis Presley tune, you know, it's got 3 chords. That's pretty much what you get. And lots of popular music, but we need variety. So we have minor chords within our major scales. So when we talk about a piece saying it's in a major key, that doesn't mean there aren't going to be any minor chords, because as we've seen, a major key can still have minor chords. So you may have noticed that I only did 6 different chords. I had those 3 major chords, and I had 3 minor chords. There's 1 left, because we said there were 7 notes in the scale, right? So I've got this one left. If we look at this, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This is a different kind of chord altogether. It's called diminished. You don't really need to know that. But just so if you wondered what happened to that 7th chord, there's where it went. And it's a very different kind of chord. Gives us a lot of ways we can go with that. So we know now that we're in the key of C with doing our Twinkle Twinkle. We have major chords, we have minor chords. So I'm going to add some chords to our melody. So we've got the same melody we've been doing. I'm going to put some chords below it. Now we have harmony. Gives us a little bit more depth, makes the piece more interesting. In this particular case, I only have major chords. Twinkle Twinkle's a simple song. We're sticking with major chords here. Notice that I didn't go jumping all over the place like I did before. So what the chords I really did were these. But if I played like that, my hand's jumping around a lot. So we do what we call inversions. We turn the chords upside down. Same notes. I just move it down here. This was my other chord. I just moved it there. So your hand doesn't have to jump around so much. So even though it doesn't look like I'm going very far, I'm actually turning chords upside down in all kinds of different directions to make it easier for play. So this goes together. That's because my chords and my melody are in the same key. What if I played the chords in a different key altogether? So I'm going to play harmony in the key of G major and a melody in the key of C major. Not very pleasing, is it? That's because their notes were incompatible with each other. They were working in different places. You know, it's like putting, maybe put a Maserati engine in your Civic. It's just not going to work very well. It might function, but it's probably not going to be the best thing. So the key all has to go together. Harmony has to match up with the melody. Now, we talked about major and minor. Let's take Twinkle Twinkle and put it in a minor key. So here's our melody in a minor key. I just changed 2 notes, the ones that would have been changed in the minor scale. Now I'm going to change the harmony too. I'm going to put the harmony in a minor key. Gives it a very different kind of mood. You know, now it's not very happy. Maybe it's not twinkling quite so brightly. But these are sounds that you have to get used to hearing. There's no magic trick I can say, oh, if you hear this, it's going to be in a minor key. If you hear this in a major key, it's not that easy. So for purposes of this kind of class, you know, while you're trying to figure out the difference in sounds, find a piece that says so-and-so in the key of A minor and listen to that, and then find one that says in the key of A major and listen to that and try to get that in your ear. It's not something I would ever expect students to be able to just go, oh yeah, that's in a major key, that's in a minor key. You need to know those things exist. You need to understand that there is a difference in the construction and there's a difference in the sound, but I would never expect you to be able to just sit down and go, oh yes, I know that's in a minor key. If you can, that's fabulous, but not necessarily. What you need to know is that whatever key the melody is in, the harmony needs to be in the same key. Although, when we get to the modern period, we'll see the composers try to mess with that too. So, tonality, harmony, melody, all goes together. The next thing we're going to do is take a piece of music and see how all these elements come together.